If we would use the typical RPG terminology, Garuda is what you will call a druid. She is a frame that you can play as an offensive support frame. She has her share of DPS and of course her share of lethal blows. Where Garuda shines the most is in her support skills. She is amazing at preparing a place and being the first contact to enemies. With her array of abilities, she can solo, but she also shines bright when you really give Garuda a job to do, and this of course is where her team play abilities come into play. She is equipped with the ability to jump through the doors first and create support before her allies even get there. She can make enemies bleed, she can heal allies, she is self-sufficient, you don't have to hold her hand, and she can deal her own share of lethal damage as well, which is one of the things that makes Garuda amazing. Her first ability is called Dread Mirrors. This ability lets Garuda launch herself at an enemy and rip out their life force, which is basically like ripping out their soul or their heart. The life force will be automatically turned into a shield for Garuda, and this shield can also be thrown like a Nova Bomb if you charge up your first ability. This ability is quite unique but is also weird. Mods for power strength will increase the damage on the initial attacks, but will not increase the multiplier on the amount of damage that you can store up if you charge your Garuda's bomb. Now, this ability by itself is not at optimal level till you combine it with her second ability, because when it comes to a lot of these newer frames, you always want to look at the synergy. Blood Altar is that second ability, and this is where the big synergy comes in. As you continue to play Garuda, you will come to realize that she is also great at providing support in any desired location. This ability lets Garuda pierce an enemy and use them as a healing tower. This ability is also basically like Parasitic Link for Nidus, but in this situation you will be able to give health and support to every single person. The biggest use for this ability comes in two parts, and I've even seen a lot of people use it in Eidolon hunts, and she has been amazing so far. So those two parts are tanking and isolation. When Garuda casts her first ability, she gets a protective shield, but some of these attacks can still get you, because remember, in Warframe, even if you have high shields and all this protection, some elemental damage types can still get you. Elemental damages like toxin and even some corrosive and viral damage will still bypass that shield and will harm you in the same way. So having a constant flow of health from her second ability will make her a little bit tankier and works wonders with her. It gives her the opportunity to focus on other things instead of just survival. Now, the second aspect, which is isolation, is also a great thing. Some of these enemies that you will encounter cannot be killed in a single blow, and in some cases you might need to coordinate your attack and take out the trash mobs first. And as you begin to reach higher levels in the game, you will need that toughness and isolation, because CC, crowd control, is very important when the enemy levels increase instead of just damage over time or dealing the most damage. So using this ability will let you hold enemies in place till you get rid of the others. Enemies like the Nox, heavy gunners, or some of the troublesome sentients can also be held in place. And because the ability applies all the damage that is taken to the target after you release them, this means that you can draw aggro and kill it in the same opening. Enemies around you will consider those targets as an ally when you are using them to heal yourself. So those enemies will begin to damage the impaled enemies as well. So in other words, when you release them, all that damage that stacks up more like Nyx's first ability, all that damage will be released and applied to that enemy once you release that second ability. Finally, we have arrived at the third ability. This is going to be the 8th gate of opening, the gate of death. With her own life on the line, Garuda opens up all her chakra points and releases some immense power. Combining this with her passive means that this power will cut Garuda's health in half and give her energy, and also buff her damage every single time she uses it. It's pretty much like Garuda is cutting herself to activate rage and enter adrenaline. However, because of this passive, it could also be a death sentence for a Garuda player. The more health she loses, the higher the damage she can deal. And when Garuda reaches the doorsteps of death, she deals that optimal damage, that extra 100% damage. This is going to be her double-edged sword. It has its rewards by giving you energy and increasing your damage, which is great, but it could also get you killed. To be on a cautious side, one of the things that I suggest that you do is that you activate certain abilities before you cast it. This is going to mean that you will have to either activate your second ability or activate your 1 and 2 before you cast your 3. Casting 3 back to back will drop your health to the lowest number of 2, which means one single tick of damage will kill you. So you must check your 1 and 2 to increase your survivability, and of course if you have certain sentinel mods that will give you health in return, you can also do that as well. If you have Kavat or Kubra mods that will give you health in return, you can use those to counter that effect. Now her ultimate is going to be the 3rd level of the synergy, since it scales with her passive and her power strength. You can cast it anytime to impale and bleed enemies, but to get the most out of this ability, you will want to cast your 3 first. Remember, as we talked about earlier, this 3 helps you amplify your damage. This means that you will have damage that stacks up with your power strength. Now the bad thing about this is that the cast animation is a little bit slow, so you want to stack mods like speed drift or use mods like natural talent, but once you use those mods, this ability is incredible. It is amazing. You can hit enemies behind walls without a line of sight, which is basically one thing that was taken out of Excalibur, so I'm glad that they brought it back with Garuda. This also means that Garuda can use enemy detection mods and see enemies inside a room before she walks in there and take them out before even walking fully into the room. This is a great thing, and it also functions a little bit like Seeking Shuriken for Ashe. So this is a great ability for targeting problematic enemies and bosses, enemies who are trying to set off an alarm, enemies like maybe Kayla the Thame. You can target her with this ability, and even when she jumps back into her box, she will still have that bleed effect going off till the timer runs out, which is incredible. And of course, one of the great things about this ability is that you can stack it up with elemental weapons like the Pox. Now, in terms of modding, Garuda gives you the opportunity to do away with certain mods without that heavy sacrifice that you always see. Mods like Rage or Hunter Adrenaline is not really needed because you have that 3rd ability, which will give you back your energy, so you really don't need mods like Rage. She is also great with Ardaza Kavat for lethal takedowns and critical buff, so I have tried this before with Ardaza and of course with a Smita Kavat, and it is just amazing because when you have that critical buff and you hit enemies, it actually deals a lot of damage and kills them fast. Now I will suggest that you add arcanes. If you have any, you can add arcanes as a cushion to that crippling effect that you have on your 3rd ability, or you can have certain mods on your companion to compensate for that. Now, to be highly effective on Corpus Tau sets, I will say that you can use auras like Shield Disruption, which will reduce Corpus shields, because Garuda suffers a little bit when it comes to going against shielded enemies. And of course, when you're going against Grenier, mods like Corrosive Projection is also great, but then when you have mods like Growing Power, it even works a lot better than Corrosive Projection in some of these cases. Now, Umbra mods and Sacrifice mods and Adaptation mods or Rolling Guard, these mods will be incredible with Garuda. I haven't found a lot of frames that wouldn't benefit as much from a lot of these mods, and because of Garuda's base rating, she is incredible in a lot of these situations and a lot of these tile sets, and she is even incredible when it comes to playing on Lua. But most of all, never forget that she is an offensive support frame, which means her playstyle is still as a support frame, and it also revolves around being the first one to jump into a room. But you must also be careful, Garuda is not Valkyrie. She requires a specific target selection instead of the all-out attack that you can do with Valkyrie. But anyways, thanks for watching this video. Hope it helps you in mastering Garuda. Thanks once again. I'll see you in the next one.